We've been covering a lot of movies from 1984, it seems, recently.
Mm-hmm.
Another icon of 84. Universal Pictures. It has the Amblin vibe, but it's not... I was looking through it. It's not an official Amblin movie, but you think it would be like...
Well, you know what? It's got the Amblin vibe, but it's got a little more of an edge.
Definitely.
Than Amblin. It's like a little more like PG-13, and like it's a little more Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and less, E.T. or Raiders. It's and it is like it's low budget. It could almost be like, again, 80s slasher. It's got some, it's got some gross out scenes, and it's got, some like sex scenes,
Definitely like Tom,
some Porky's hijinks.
Like the alien costumes in this look so good. There's a like the Hitman, like bounty hunter alien that shows up.
Yeah. He's great.
Alien in the Lego Space Police series that I have a picture of. I gotta find it. I'll say.
It's got like the little eyes on the side.
Looks just like, I think they like referenced the alien from Last Starfighter for that.
Like when I was a kid, the first time I saw the movie, like I was real little, and so didn't quite loved it. Didn't quite understand all the ins and outs of it. But when that Hitman guy, because he starts out looking like a normal guy, it's like the Terminator or something. He's just kind of this normal looking guy, and then he's like standing in front of the Last Starfighter arcade machine, and then it like shoots this beam at him, and then it basically takes away his camouflage, so he doesn't look like just a normal Earth dude. Now he looks like the alien, and so he loses his disguise. But when I was a kid, what I thought was happening was like just some innocent guy like wandered over to the machine and got turned into a mutant by it. And it just seemed so tragic to me. Like I felt so bad for that guy.
You get scared and turned off from like arcade machines after. We had mentioned the premise, like it's
great
like
premise, evergreen.
Being good at video games will save the universe.
Save the universe, and now it's true. Like now you can get really good at video games and be like a professional gamer. That was something that like, we got glimpses of and dreamed of, when we were kids, but
now it's like, it's reality.
Yeah, but it's all there. Now, we've been, there's been a bunch of episodes where we've, touched on the Last Starfighter, and you were saying like in the trailer, it's like coming soon, the Atari 2600 version of it. And so I did a little more digging with that. Pretty interesting story. So there is like, there's the Atari computer version of Last Starfighter, which is pretty cool looking, the state-of-the-art graphics of its time, not too far from the movie, the game in the movie. Still its own thing, but not too far from it. But the Last Starfighter 2600 game ended up becoming, like it got scrapped because, this movie's 84, and the video game industry in America collapsed in like 83, 84. That was where it collapsed. And then Atari like sold off all its holdings and stuff. But David Neubauer created the what was going to be the Last Starfighter game for Atari 2600. And then it didn't come out until years later, and it came out as Solaris. I don't know if you've ever...
shit, I've heard of that game. No way. So it became that.
It became Solaris, like almost like unaltered, almost completely, unchanged.
Wow.
Came out as Solaris. And Solaris is like one of the best Atari 2600 games ever. Like possibly my favorite. I have a bunch of favorites, but it's like so much fun. Graphics are amazing. The gameplay is super fun and amazing. And it's got this immense world. Like I've been going like heavy into Atari 2600 games lately, and I've made various attempts throughout my life to try to beat Solaris. I'm gonna go for it now. I'm gonna really like make a concerted effort and do the full court press to try. Become the Starfighter. Okay. Try to defeat Solaris. But Solaris is great, and like the original version that was going to be the Last Starfighter, it on the opening screen, it said by Solaris. Like it was made by, and so when it eventually came out, it says by D. Neubauer, but then
the game is Solaris. And that's incredible. Because they were advertising that game in the trailer and in the end credits.
So like after we had that conversation, I was like, okay, well, what did happen to the 2600 2600 last Starfighter game, and it was so beautiful to be like, oh, this old friend I've known my whole life of Solaris for the Atari 2600. All this time I've been playing the last Starfighter. Yeah.
Damn, Tom, that's awesome. Like, with this movie, the CGI still looks incredible in this.
It was like cutting edge at the time. And as far as I know, it was like the first time CGI was used in a motion picture to depict like actual things in the world. Like it wasn't like, because you had it was in Star Trek 2, you're watching something on a computer monitor and it was CGI that you're watching. But this was the first time where it's like, oh no, you're actually watching a spaceship fly by and it's CGI. And yeah, it just looked so amazing. It blew my mind. And then when I got a little older, when I was in high school and I started messing around with CGI and stuff, you know, me and all my friends who were doing this stuff, we were all shooting for the last Starfighter. Like that's the CGI, you know.
The design too of Centauri's car.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, because it's the DeLorean. Yeah.
So we have to do a Buckaroo Banzai episode. They pilfered Back to the Future pilfered Buckaroo Banzai for flux capacitor, and they got the basically the DeLorean design. In Back to the Future 2, Centauri's car is in the movie.
Oh, is it?
It's parked on a street.
That's awesome. Yeah, because there's probably a small world of these sort of custom cars for movies. Might even be the same guy who made the Batmobile for Adam West. You know, it might even be the same guy. So it's like it probably would be like, okay, we need a DeLorean, and in the lot he's also got Centauri's car.
So it's in the background of Back to the Future 2, Centauri's car.
Yeah. Yeah, man, Centauri is so like there's some like this could have been just sort of like a forgettable kind of like, I don't know, Battle Beyond the Stars or something, like a Roger Corman kind of thing. But there's so many little touches that really elevate it. And Robert Preston as Centauri, as this sort of like Merlin, you know, this sort of flim flam man, this recruiter. Everybody knew him from The Music Man, and now it's almost like he's reprising that role. Except it's like The Music Man, instead of showing up on a train, you know, he shows up in your town in this like flying space DeLorean. The alien is the captain from Police Academy.
Oh, like
Under
my
the costume,
god!
it's
That's
that guy.
Amazing. Eric Lassard.
Yeah, like the nice commandant. Yeah,
Commandant Lassard. We have to do a Police Academy episode.
And he has that great laugh. Death Blossom. That's death. He kind of reminds me a little bit of like, you know, one of the like Planet of the Apes guys.
Oh,
yeah. He's like acting behind this mask. But yeah, great kind of buddy movie, you know, where they're like, you know, they're sort of teamed up.
I love the Back on Earth shenanigans. Yeah, with his double.
Yeah, with his double Beta.
Beta.
Really good. And like the little brother who, again, it's like the Bad News Bears set the standard. And so the Goonies, it's like Bad News Bears style kids. It's like little kids who are just like, you know, swearing, and the kids in Swamp Thing too. Like, you could picture him being played by like Corey Feldman or something. You know, what was his name in Goonies? Face?
Mouth.
Mouth. That's it. Yeah, but yeah. So again, yeah, you're switching back and forth between the space stuff and the Earth stuff. And like, yeah, the Earth stuff is pretty fun and pretty compelling and yeah, shenanigan and
cool setting.
Really disturbing special effects when the Beta unit is kind of acclimatizing itself to Earth.
God. Thought it was the Thing or something, yeah, like under the...
you know what's so effective? That sort of old school special effect of, you know, like the Tom Savini, you know, school or whatever, where it's like you got this like sort of rubber thing that you've made, and then you're just kind of pumping air into it, like so then it's like pulsating in this very disturbing way. Like
his head is separated from his body and stuff.
Yeah, that was cool too. And again, that's like a very simple special effect. Like the actor is just like sitting with his head through a hole in the desk, but real effective. Go back to sleep. You're dreaming.
Guest plays our hero.
Yeah, because he kind of has that 80s look. He's got like the puffed out hair. He must have been in a million 80s things, but was he in anything?
I remember him from, oh my God, he was in Halloween 2. Okay. Speaking of that, Nick Castle, Michael Myers himself is the director of the movie.
Yeah.
Shape.
Yeah, the shape. Yeah. Like he's wearing the mask in the director's chair. Like there's a picture of him turned around in the director's chair, like giving a thumbs up with the full costume and mask.
He has a boombox. He's like,
Well, that's like you wish that like Henry Winkler would have just decided to just become the Fonz and just be the Fonz like in everyday life. It's like that with Michael Myers, or it's like
if I was Bill Hader, like on directing Barry, I would have contractually obligated Henry Winkler to be on set dressed as the Fonz at least like a couple of the days. I'm like, listen, it's in your contract. You got to show up as the Fonz.
When they were filming Attack of the Clones, Lucas would have like this mannequin of Christopher Lee with like Dracula teeth in and stuff. Just like, I guess like, because he's just like, Lucas is just such a fan of that kind of stuff. He's got like Peter Cushing and now he's got Christopher Lee. And so like, yeah, that would be funny if on the set of Barry, it's like there's always like the mannequin, the wax Madame Tussauds Fonzie that Conan O'Brien used to use when he had the Tonight Show.
They're like, Christopher Lee's on the set. They're on location. There's Porta-Johns. He's like, Count Dooku has become Count Dookie. You know?
So like Last Starfighter, great premise, cool looking game. And like as a kid, it's like the graphics on that game he was playing, like we weren't going to see those until like 10, 15 years later, those kind of graphics. But at the time, it's like, wow. Like,
it's still looking good.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine what it would have looked like back in like, in 84.
Well, you know what game kind of paid off on the game that came out that was like the closest to what the Last Starfighter was in the movie was when the Sega 3DX came out with that Star Wars game where it was kind of like on rails.
Yes.
But you're like aiming the guns and you're shooting at Star Destroyers and stuff. That was like the first game to kind of like, okay, we officially have the closest thing we're going to get to like the Last Starfighter movie game as an actual game.
I also felt too like the arcade game of Star Wars was very kind of vaguely like, it had that feel too.
Well, it's kind of like when you're pitching this thing, it's like, it's like Star Wars Mania, and it's like, okay, how do we plug into Star Wars? And it's like, okay, here's how we can do a budget conscious Star Wars. And I love that world, and I love the world building of Last Starfighter. And I realized, like, because when I was a kid, Last Starfighter, all of this stuff seemed so profound. It's like, greetings, Starfighter. You must defend the frontier against Zurg, the Kodan Armada. I'm like, Zurg, the Kodan Armada. Or Zur and the Kodan Armada. I think Zurg is the villain in Toy Story, the Buzz Lightyear villain. But Zur and the Kodan Armada. And Zur is the son of the leader of the good guys, of the son of the leader of the Rylans, of Rylos, and his son has sort of, he's become Judas. He's turned his back on his people, and he's joined up with the Kodan Armada, and the Kodan Armada's emperor has entrusted him with, it's like all this like intrigue and stuff, and it just seems so profound. And then like watching it now, I was like, oh yeah, it's like they watched Star Wars and they're like, oh yeah, we can come up with that kind of bullshit too. And it's like, yeah, you just come up with a bunch of words and names and you mix and match, and then all of a sudden you got this thing that sounds like pretty legit,
It sounds great. Like, Tom, I just remembered, I can't believe it. I remembered another movie that we will have to cover on here that the Starfighter is the lead of. Jaws: The Revenge, the fourth one. He's the star of that.
Yeah.
I could just picture his face, like.
So he got kind of trapped. Like, it's like he's the star of this really great thing that is sort of low budget, the sort of thing that like a Roger Corman studio, but he didn't, his next thing, like he didn't like transcend that. He just kind of like stayed in that orbit of those kind of grindhouse kind of things.
We'll see him maybe this October in Halloween 2.
Okay.
He works at Haddonfield Memorial Hospital.
It kind of promises a sequel, at the end, which never materialized. He hasn't died. He's, boldly fighting evil in another dimension. And as a kid, I sort of incorporated that into my own personal theology too, like, because I like that idea, like, oh yeah, fighting evil in another dimension. I like that.
That's awesome. I like the flashing like neon lights.
Yeah, it's they call that doo-wop architecture. It's like from the doo-wop era of
God.
if you go to like the Jersey Shore, you see that a lot, that aesthetic a lot, and like I love that aesthetic. Yeah, like the Starlight Motel or whatever, or at the Starlight Village or whatever it was called. And then and yeah, just the whole like trailer park thing. It also, you know who else he reminds me of? The protagonist in Caddyshack.
Yes, Danny Noonan.
But so it is like a slobs versus snobs kind of, except there weren't any snobs. It's
Slobs versus aliens.
But it is like, of course, it makes sense to have your protagonist be from this sort of humble background, humble beginnings, especially if you're doing like a King Arthur riff.
We have so many Total Recall, like our Total Recall studios.
Yeah.
What if it was like a Caddyshack where the snobs were the aliens?
Yeah, right.
Like the slobs,
we're workshopping the like reboot of The Last Starfighter, where you got like, that's what it was missing. It was a Caddyshack slobs versus snobs, but there were no snobs. So it's like, yeah, okay, the snobs whoosh, they pull off their thing and they turn out to be aliens. They turn out to be bounty hunters sent by the Kodan Armada.
Oh my god!
Even like the tactics in it, because like again, low budget and stuff, but looking like $1 million, and sort of coming up with fun ways to have like the heroes kind of get in and out of trouble, and like okay, we're gonna let the Armada pass us by, and then we're gonna attack them from behind, and then you know what? I think that Rian Johnson, like, I think he's a Last Starfighter fan, because he was taking stuff from Battlestar Galactica and feeding it back into Star Wars. I think he was taking some stuff from Last Starfighter and feeding it back into Star Wars, because the Kodan Armada has the stuff that was in The Last Jedi, where it's like you have this armada, but then they have a control ship that directs all of them and coordinates their movements. And so it's like, okay, you don't have to destroy this whole armada. Just take out that control ship, and then all the other dominoes like fall into place.
I still, The Last Jedi is still my favorite.
It's great. It is great. I mean, I still, like, I'm a fan, like, I prefer the J.J. Abrams ones, but there is like a very big space in my heart for the Rian Johnson one. Like, I love that movie too. It's just that the J.J. stuff is just a cut above for me. But yeah, Rian Johnson's Last Jedi, I loved it the day I saw it. I've never wavered in that, despite the fact that like everybody I know was shitting on it. I'm like, no, this is great. This is a great movie. Yeah.
I was crying like my eyes out at Yoda's appearance.
Yeah, Yoda.
We love you, Yoda.
Yeah, it's like the lights come on at the end. Like it was like opening night, and then the lights come on, and I'm like, yeah, that was great. And then like the whole rest of the theater is like got this lemon face, this
they're
sour
throwing cabbage at the screen.
Yeah, that's another thing to bring up, like sort of opening night. When I was a kid, I'd see the commercials for Last Starfighter, and it would say, and it was like, sneak preview tonight, blah blah blah, and like I didn't understand what sneak preview meant. I guess it meant like, okay, the movie's supposed to come out on Friday or whatever, but you can see like a sneak preview on Thursday or something, like, back then in the 80s, maybe, but I thought sneak preview, I thought that meant that they were going to run it on TV. And so if you tune in, you'd be able to watch it like just this one night. We're going to have a sneak preview of Last Starfighter on TV, and you can watch it for free. And then if you miss that sneak preview, then you can go to the theater and pay for it. And so I was waiting for the Last Starfighter to show up on my TV, in advance of the theatrical release.
The little kid stuff. It's got an edge to it. Like the scene where he drives, like an Amblin movie might not have had like the scene where the beta drives he's like, there's nothing left to do but ram my truck into the spaceship and stuff like that, or like.
Yeah, and then she, I love you, Alex, and then like you cut to him in space. Back to the Future 2, when he's like, okay, I want to, I'm gonna get this, I want to get this pickup truck, or I'm gonna go, with Elizabeth Shue to, Make Out Mountain, or like we're gonna go on this camping trip and stuff. Like when Michael J. Fox is talking about that, I was picturing The Last Starfighter. The way they all pile in the pickup truck and go.
He's like, Beta's like, downloading fuck manual or whatever. Like,
yeah. And he's like
scanning.
listening to what the other guys are saying and stuff, and then he like starts like doing his sort of Chat GPT version of and it's like just completely inappropriate. His miracle ear.
Power fuck engage.
Yeah, it's like Neo in the Matrix where he like downloads all this like kung fu knowledge or something, and now it's like he's downloading all this fuck machine knowledge.
She's like, Alex, you fuck like a robot.
So yeah, Last Starfighter, check it out if you haven't seen it before.
I'm gonna pass out.
If you want to play the Last Starfighter video game on your Atari 2600, play Solaris. Solaris was part of that like rebirth of the Atari 2600, like in the late 80s, where it was like, Solaris is hot and Midnight Magic's mean. One more thing, it's got a special low price, under $50. $50? Well, isn't that nice? The fun is back. Oh, yes, sirree. It's the 2600 from Atari.
Shit, Tom, I'm watching the, I'm gonna maybe look up a playthrough of that on YouTube.
Yeah, it's, I mean, you gotta try, it's so much fun to play. But yeah, so I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee, and Jack Kirby's Star Warriors, The Adventures of Adam Star and the Solar Legion.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And please follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli, on Instagram at Tom_Scioli, and support my Patreon. Go to patreon.com and search Tom Scioli.
Follow the show on Instagram at total_recall_show.
And yeah, we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you bravely fighting evil in another dimension.
Centauri pulled up.
Yeah, Centauri's here. And that was like, that's the other thing, like, when you're a kid and like, it's like, oh, don't ever hitchhike and stuff. And then there's all these movies where like somebody hitchhikes and then, they get to become some like, cosmic space hero because they were hitchhiking.
I'm going to get in cars with strangers.
Yeah.
They're like...
like if you saw like a real life Centauri, it's bad news.
Yeah.
Like, steer clear of that guy.
That guy isn't allowed within 100 yards of a school or whatever.
I love the scene where he's like taking out his eyeballs and polishing them. And it's like Cocoon or something because it's he takes off his Robert Preston mask and like underneath is this sort of glowing alien.
In real life, Centauri will pick you up in the van and he's wearing nothing underneath his trench coat.